We're here, Bram Radio, with John Blue, of course, Zach. Man, wait till we get a load of this guy.
Come on, Zach. Let's go.
How long have we known each other?
Oh, gosh. Mid-90s-ish.
So,
It's been a while.
26, 27 years in there somewhere?
Yeah.
Originally from Southern California.
Let me qualify that, though, because I don't know with Zach, but there's usually these gaps about 6 months when I call you and you call back. So just so everybody knows, it's typical. Wow. Don't worry about that. He'll get back to you. Just don't, So
just got called out.
I love it.
Just got called out.
I love it. All right.
Okay. I'm working on that.
That's why we've been friends, because I'm like, I didn't go in the closet and
you get it.
Cry myself to sleep.
You get it? You didn't?
Whatever.
I got it. Okay. Now you just made it 7 months. All right. So you have had quite the amazing life. When I grow up, I want to be you.
Oh, yeah.
So somebody who looks at you is going to look at you and they're going to say, yeah, this is not a dude I want to tangle with. It's I think we're both in that same period of life where it's like maybe you weren't where you were, but you got enough in the tank that you don't want to test it. Yeah, I know that's where you're at. At 17 years of life, 17 years old, you left home to go play with the junior hockey in the junior hockey, where you earned a scholarship to the University of Minnesota, and then you represented the United States in the 1988 Olympics.
Oh yeah.
And
Absolute best seventh place team in the tournament. Yeah. We locked into 7. No one was taking it from us. Unbelievable.
And then you went on to play with Team USA in 3 World Championships. And then you enjoyed a 10-year professional career playing with the Boston Bruins, the Buffalo Sabres, and you didn't just play hockey. You were the goalie.
Oh, yeah. The dumb one.
You were the goalie. Idiot. You were the dude that everybody's just shooting at. It's like you are the target down at the end of the range. And you got and the round is not small.
Painful. I am not wired to be a goalie. A goalie needs to be calm. A goalie needs to be in his right mind. A goalie needs to be just peaceful in there and let the puck come to him. And I am not that guy. I want to engage. I'm jumping all over the place. I'm terrible for goaltending. I cursed my dad today because he stuck me in goal at 5 years old because he didn't have a goalie and he didn't know how to coach and threw me in there. Pissed me off.
So now you're still playing hockey. We talked the other day, and you were saying, now I get to go out and not being a goalie. I just go out and I get to wreck these young guys. Yeah,
I haven't put on a pair of pads since my World Championships 19 whatever. I got rid of everything and play forward. And hockey is just it's life for me. My wife says when I'm a complete idiot, go play hockey. Just get away because you get on the ice and you engage. Like not a lot of sports you can do that. Like football, you can't really go out and play. You can play flag football, but there's no, but with hockey, you can go out there and do that. And there are fights, and it's wonderful. Like, where else can you beat the shit out of your friend and then, go home and no one's going to arrest you?
Right.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's great. Or get beat up, which I did. The tipping point for me was, I don't try not to do this anymore, last summer, this 18-year-old kid just beat the shit out of me. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's time. Stop picking fights. You're old. Don't do it.
Yeah.
We
just check him into the boards, and he was like, "Yep, nope."
No, I came across the middle of the ice, and he stuck out his leg and caught me. So I two-handed him with my stick. He didn't like that. He had a cage on, so I'm thinking, this is some kid with a cage. He doesn't know what he's doing. He was 6'2" or 6'3", so I grabbed his cage and turned it, and then he started hammering me, and I was like shocked that this 18-year-old kid actually knew what he's doing. Because in hockey today, if you watch it, they've tried to take fighting out of the game, which is not a good thing, I don't think.
Right.
And you ask a lot of guys.
And is it going to happen? Is it how
I
successful?
think the way they're going, yeah. I think because
really?
These kids now, my son now plays, and they grow up in it, and as they slowly just kind of, emasculate them from hitting in the way that they used to and engaging. It just, it's a slow cook, and now the league, you don't see a lot of fighters. And the reality is in hockey, fighting keeps it safer. That sounds counterintuitive, but it's not, because here's the deal. If you're on the ice with Wayne Gretzky, let's take, one of the greatest players of all time, what you knew as a player is if you touched him, you were going to deal with Marty McSorley. Now, I don't know if you know who Marty McSorley is.
No.
Just one of the great fighters and wingmen in all sports for hockey.
Right.
And Marty was crazy. And if you touched Wayne Gretzky, Marty was coming over to beat the hell out of you. So what does it do? You think twice about touching Marty. It's a policing system that worked, besides the fact who doesn't like a bare-knuckle fight on the ice.
Right.
So.
I like it. There's this weird, so I do a lot of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
MMA stuff, and there's this weird social thing that happens with jiu-jitsu. It's most of the fights when you're about to engage with somebody, you start sitting down. And it's like you just start on the ground facing it. At least one of them is, and then you have to pass. You have to pass a guard. Whoever elevates first is the one who has to pass the guy who's still on the ground. You got to pass his guard. In other words, his guard is you got to get by his legs, and he's doing a lot of just maneuvering around, just so you can't get up and you can't choke him. You can't choke somebody if you can't get past their guard.
Right.
And I remember one of the senior guys. His name was Greg McIntyre. The guy's it's just an amazing fighter. He's had an amazing MMA career. He was just like, "Hey, Bram, want to do a round?" And I was just honored because, hey man, Greg McIntyre is actually talking. He wants to do a round with me. And so I'm sitting there like, yeah, sure. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, I don't know. This is
you're sitting
this is probably 6-7 years ago. And he was like, "Stand up." He goes, "When's the last time you saw a fight start when you're sitting down facing each other? Get on your feet." And then I stood up to where he commenced to ragdolling me. And it was
humbling.
Absolutely humbling, because
there's something even about that in the midst of taking a punch or fighting and being humbled in that. There's something that goes on in your head that isn't maybe normal but it's just good. It's just like, okay, regroup, think, let's go.
One of the things I'm always teaching my kids is one, do something that sucks every day. Do the hard stuff, because if you are going to choose to do the hard thing, then when hard stuff happens to you, you're going to say, natural. I might have chosen that, or I'm not afraid of it at least, and I'm going to go and I'm going to attack it. I'm going to take it head on.
Yeah.
And in combat sports do that, because you're going to encounter adversity, and you're going to encounter it at a very high level, especially if that dude has years on you, maybe has a couple of weight classes on you. He might have some mercy on you, but he's also gonna put you through a really, really hard test.
Yeah.
And so I always tell my boys, like, hey, you know what? When adversity happens, you don't have to run. Yep, embrace it. Don't run away from it. Run towards it. You want to run the sound of gunfire. Run towards it. Yeah. And I didn't realize how much of an impact that made on the boys until I started seeing them as adults and the way they handle themselves. I was like, man, I was so glad I had them actually in combat sports and now our young guy, Adrian, who you just met, he does that. Well, he's kind of like your baby giraffe.
Yeah.
He's just all wobbly and there's very coordination escaped him somehow. But he's not afraid now if somebody were to get their hands on him. And that was the main reason for getting them into combat sports, is so that they could deal with adversity later. What does it feel like when someone gets their hands on you with bad intentions? What are you going to do? And there's just something that, and I think men just in general, let's take it off of that. Let's just say people in general are not confrontational these days.
No. Adversity is a gift. And if you embrace and look from a leadership perspective, if you embrace adversity as a gift, it'll change you. What we're looking to and what we've seen society-wise is that we're emasculating our men. Don't touch the guns. Don't engage in a fight. I've got a phenomenal wife. She was a Laker girl. She's
Chris is awesome.
Can be wonderful.
Yeah,
and
she's
in
amazing.
Junior high, we're at a Christian school. I've got 3 boys, 2 girls, and 2 grandbabies. And we're at and my thing with my boys is always this. You can fight. In fact, I want you to fight, but you better not ever start a fight. Mm-hmm. You come in and you finish fights. Mm-hmm. And when you finish a fight, I expect you to do whatever you need to do to finish the fight, but you don't start it. So we're at school, and TJ and Hudson was younger, and some guys were picking on him. Okay. And TJ stepped in and hammered some kid. Gets suspended. So I come home, and I'm, as a dad, you're like, okay, that's good. That's good. I'm listening to my wife on the phone, and she's talking to the school. And they're like, your son and this, and he's suspended. And I'm like, oh, God, how's this going to go? You know?
Yeah.
And, so pumped. Chris is like, let me tell you something. With my son, if he is protecting another kid, you can suspend him every single day of the week, and I will back him because that's the way we're going to raise our boys. And hung up the phone.
Nice.
But we have to raise men.
So wait. So what happened?
He got suspended. I went home and said, great job,
son. Go get some ice cream?
Yeah, I had fun. And I actually learned that from my dad. See, what you do with your boys, what we're missing today is men are not imparting to the next generation, and women are stepping in and growing our young men.
Mm-hmm.
That's a scary, scary thought. When I was in junior high, same thing. Got in a fight. We were in an area that was heavily Hispanic, and there was Hispanic gangs and groups in junior high, and some kid pushed me, and I said, well, here we go. Got in a fight. Broke my hand. Got all that stuff, and got suspended for a week. I came home. My mom was like upset as could be. My dad came home, and he's like, well done. Yep. And that stuck with me. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? And then you start thinking about it. You defend what is right, what is good. That's what our boys need to do.
Yeah, my boys, I remember I got a phone call from one of the teachers at their school. And they said, well, this is right after my boys came home. And they said, hey, Dad, is it okay to fight? Yeah. Is it okay to fight? Because we're being told at school that it's not okay to fight, but can we fight? And their mom's sitting there, and I was just like, ooh, I got this one. I got this one. And I said, listen, role playing right now. You come around a corner and someone is picking on your sister, but they're not putting hands on her. They're treating her disrespectfully. What do you do? And they're like, well, that's easy. I just get between them, and I just say, hey, that's my sister, and if you want to continue what you're doing, that's cool. But you got to get through me first. I happen to be a handful. And they were like, awesome. I said, now, another one. So you come around a corner, Micah, my oldest, I said, and someone has Sam, and they're in full mount, and they're doing full ground and pound on him. What do you do? And he was like, full engaged, don't stop until they're not moving. I was like, my man. I said, here's what's going to happen after that. I'm going to get a phone call from the principal. Yeah. And the principal is going to say, I'd like to see you in my office. Your son's been in a fight, and we're going to suspend him. I said, I'm going to walk in the office. I'm going to sit down. I say, Mr. Principal, go ahead and tell me what you got. And he's going to tell me what you did, Micah, Sam. And then I'm going to turn to one of you boys, whoever's in the hot seat, and I'm going to say, what happened? You're going to tell me your side, which I'm going to bet is going to be it's just going to be prospectively different. Yeah. It's not going to be from a content or truth perspective. It's not going to be different than what he said. Yeah. I said, then I'm going to turn to the principal and I say, what's the punishment? He said, well, they're going to be suspended. Then I'm going to turn back to you and say, cool, you got your stuff? Let's go get some ice cream. I said, that's how that's going to go down. Yeah. The boys were like, really? Yeah. Of course, Mom wasn't super stoked about it, but after explaining it to her, she fully got it. Now, fast forward about a week later, the boys, so as they got older, one of the big things for discipline that we would do is I would say, drop down, push them out. Yeah. Do some push-ups. Yeah. And so the boys it didn't matter where we were. We could be in a grocery store. We could be in the airport. Both places we did that.
Love it.
And they were doing the presidential physical fitness test. And the teacher called me and said, so we did the presidential physical fitness test today. And the kids,
off the chart.
We had Sam, who at the time was probably 8 or 9. Yeah. And most kids are getting like 5 or 6 push-ups. Your kid is hitting 30. 35, 40, and he's still going. Yeah. And so I called a break, and I was like, go ahead and get up. And I said, well, did he get up? Because he's not going to get up till you say recover. Just saying get up doesn't work. And he's like, no, he got up. And I asked him why he was so good at push-ups, and he said, well, when we get in trouble, Dad makes us do push-ups.
That's hilarious.
And so the teacher started questioning me about my parenting because it was abuse, And I just said, okay, well, here's how this is going to go, because my kids aren't going to be they're not going to be in the back seat of a police car. I want them in the front seat.
Yeah.
They're not going to be walking around with their hand out like, can you help me? I want them with their hand up like I have a solution. They're going to be functional members of society, and I want them to be leaders and not followers. Yeah. I want them to be good at following the right people. I want them to be the leaders to the people who are behind them, who are following in. I want them to be a giraffe. They can fall in behind somebody and they can break the wind for whoever's behind them and make it so that somebody has an example to follow. That's what. And I'm full preach mode on this teacher, and the teacher's like, okay, that was great talking to you. I gotta go. And she just hung up the phone and it was click, and okay, I guess she got what she needed. So I asked the boys later what happened.
Yeah,
and Sam was like, yeah, she was not too excited about my answer when I told her. I said, yeah, sometimes you gotta meter your response when you're in with these teachers.
Here's the thing, though. My wife and I were in the ministry too, among other things, and some of the leadership stuff I do. But in 27 years really of ministry and ministering to couples, and we've probably, done marriage counseling, I can't even count, hundreds of times. We've met with couples and sat down. To a T, I have yet to see, to a T, when a man, covers, loves. I have yet to meet a woman who doesn't want a man to fight for her. Mm-hmm. When he covers her, when he loves her well, when he's kind to her, when he cherishes her the way that the Bible says that you're supposed to, they want a man who will fight.
Yeah,
they want a man who will fight. I'm a couple right now I'm dealing with, and he's in special ops, and he wants to get in the fight, and she's like, oh, we don't want. I'm like, no, you want him to fight because you've got a little girl. You want him to fight because you have a little boy that needs to learn how to fight. And to a T, every single woman, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, we did a men's conference not that long ago. Yeah, it was before COVID, so it was actually the year COVID started. It was in Denver area. We had an arena out there. We just filled this place up with dudes. We had picketers outside.
Oh no!
It's like it's exclusive. I can't believe it. And it's like, hey, let them in. Put them in a box up there. I want them to see what's happening.
Yeah.
And weird. Nothing came of that. It did anything they tried to counter us with. It really didn't happen because I think what they saw was us trying to make men better for who they're supposed to be better for.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have picketers, you're not doing something right.
Right.
If you don't have someone who's opposed, if half the crowd is not offended by what you said, you didn't say anything.
Yeah.
You had nothing to say.
Yeah.
Truth hurt. Truth sits inside and stirs up, and that's what men respond to. Mm-hmm. That's what they should respond to, is truth that comes from another man that has been around, that has lived life and done something. Then all of a sudden they're stirred up inside. When you cut a man's balls off, young boys, you can't use guns, you can't fight, you can't talk like that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can be whatever you want. What you're doing is you're taking away from them that stirring that God placed in them, so that when another man speaks, they're stirred up. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I don't want to overuse the word emasculated, but when men speak to young boys or young men, it should stir something up inside. They go, okay, I'm in. I'll follow you. Let's go. Mm-hmm. That's sports. That's dad and son. That's life, the way God meant it to be. Men are to be stirred up to lead and to fight.
Yeah,
that's the DNA that's inside of us.
You said something interesting. You said if you're not drawing a picketer.
Yeah.
If you're not drawing something from, if you're not drawing a foul, you're probably not doing it right. And it's so true. Zach and I just did a thing not long ago on the three levels that often draw emotion, and it starts with opinion, because opinions, like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? I think Zach just put a thing in there. It's like that stick figure. It says your feelings, and it's got this stick figure humping the Y on your feelings. And so it's like F your feelings.
Yeah.
And so so opinions. And then there's facts, but facts can change.
Yeah.
But then there's truth.
Yeah.
And you're so right. Truth is so offensive. If you operate from a truth perspective in everything you do, which is what I always try to do, because I'm always for some reason I can draw a fight. You know,
Yeah.
we're talking outside about one of the biggest fights I'm in right now.
Yeah.
And truth be told, there's probably like 3 or 4 of those going on right now.
Yeah.
Things that are on that level.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, why is it always, I was talking to my wife the other day. I'm like, why is it always me, man? Why do I always get, and she says, because you're doing it right.
Yeah.
So the enemy knows when you're doing something that is going to wound his efforts, because he doesn't ultimately know what we're called to do.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He might be able to see a blueprint because you're made in the likeness of God, right? So he knows that you're meant to do amazing things, that you're meant to lead, that you're meant to be in the front doing what you're supposed to be doing, so everybody else behind you can say, I want to do what that guy's doing.
Yeah.
But then when you start to do it, the enemy is just like, oh, hell no. I gotta do something to counter that. And if I don't, then I'm going to be losing out in the end, and my soul count in hell is going to start reducing. Yep. And right now we're in that day and age where crazy is happening. Yeah. People live in that offended life so much. People just walk around offended, say one little thing wrong. And there are certain things that we ought to be, I get it, just in this day of age, if you do want to be effective, you kind of got to watch it a little bit. Zach, Zach makes some of the most amazing videos. And he was just like, I want to put this on Skydive San Diego's thing. I was like, I don't know how that's going to go because, but it's like, so we have to be careful to some degree. But when it comes down to this kind of truth, man, I'm not shy about it. And I know we're probably picking the biggest fight ever because the enemy is going to come at you with everything he's got, but I'm just not afraid of that.
Well, and here's the deal. The enemy knows how God created man, which is to conquer, to fight, to go after the fight, running towards. So the enemy knows that the DNA that God has placed in us is that. So knowing that's how we're supposed to respond, what he's trying to do is cut us at our legs early on. So we never get to that point. It's, I was just reading the other day, Khrushchev, the Russian leader from, mid-50s to 64-ish or something. But he was rumored to have said that we can destroy America without ever firing a shot. Now, it's argued whether he said that or not, or that was said, but how he said it. But his whole point, as you read, and what he was saying is this: we can destroy America without ever firing a shot. And this is how we do it. We go in through the media, through schools, through parenting. We just slowly introduce communism. We slowly introduce socialism. We slowly introduce these things. And the next thing you know is you have this fight that is in their men, and it starts to dissipate, and it starts to go away. We start to question words. We start to take away truth and meaning. And his whole point was, it'll take some time, but at the tipping point, what you'll have is this group of men who aren't willing to fight for what's right, what's true, and their nation without firing a single shot. It's eerily just coming to fruition now. We're seeing that.
Yeah. And you don't have to go far.
No.
You don't have to go far to see how it has been an effective measure that they took, and I think that it's. I think there's that there are more than just that from the political end. I think that there's other nations out there that are looking at us and saying that's not hard to go ahead and destroy this nation through its people, through its young people, but you have men not standing up, and the worst thing that you can do in the face of evil is nothing.
Absolutely.
The worst thing you can do is nothing. Yeah. And we have a whole bunch of nothing going on. And I think that men as believers need to do something. And it starts with your own babies. It starts with your own household. It starts with your own, with your wife. One of the things that I always ask guys when they're having kids, I have a bunch of team guy buddies of mine that just had babies. And I say, okay, got a baby now. How does that change your priorities?
Yeah. Ooh.
And they say their answer is, "Oh man, I got a new number one." I was like, "Okay, come back to me in 6 months."
Yeah.
All it's going to take, it's going to take a matter of months before you realize that your priorities aren't in order.
Right.
So let me tell you, they're like, well, "What do you mean?" And they all drop into like, "Tell me."
Yeah.
Tell me mode, right? priority one, always. Number one, wife.
Yeah.
Your wife is always number one. I said, well, I know you're a Christian, you're a believer. Shouldn't God be first? I'm like, you place God first by placing your wife first.
Yeah.
When your wife is number one and your kids, now they're like, oh, they're a unified front.
Yeah.
Now the kid has lanes and they're going down this, they're going down this road. And if they have this lane that they're in, they're like, oh, I'm good. If you prioritize that kid, you're removing those lane lines. That kid's going to go wherever he wants. By the time that kid's 4, he's going to be number one in the household, and you aren't.
Dangerous. We would sit at the dinner table. That's such a great point. And, I have 5 kids, so we'd sit at the dinner table literally, and we'd have our conversations. And we'd try to do 4 or 5 dinners together a night, hard with sports, but we'd do it. Anyways, one of the things I would do regularly is as we're sitting, I'd look over to Chris, my wife, and I go, hey, guys, I love her more than I love any of you. And they go, why? Nice. And they go, what do you mean? And I'm like, I love that woman. I love Jesus. I love that woman. And then you guys next. And then invariably what it would come out is, oh, who do you love, after that? And I'm like, depends on what day it is. Well, I'll let you know who's there. But the point is this. If a child, and this is so critical, and we're losing this in families, when a son or daughter knows that dad loves his wife or mom loves a husband, there's no way that they're not going to love them. Mm-hmm. See, so the number one thing when we do marriage counseling and parenting is like, you love your spouse well, and your kids will have security knowing that you're going to love them.
Nice.
You're right on the money. And with teams, that's hard because I'm assuming I've been with sports teams, but not what you've done. And that's a whole nother level of teams because your trust level. And how do you go back and forth from being on mission with those guys and you trust them with your life to now you got to go back home with family? That's a tough one to handle.
And I think it's important. I mean, yes, it's probably different to some degree between the sports teams and the military, especially when you start getting up into the apex predator of military. Nothing against the guys that are support guys, right? But really, the only guys I really deal with or have dealt with are the operators and the shooters. When those guys come home, they're coming off of a certain kind of high that you really can't legally duplicate.
Yeah.
And that
legally being the key word.
Yeah. And so that's
Absolutely.
where it becomes. So now you have guys coming up. They have actually taken on some degree. Some of them not so much. Yeah. But depending on who they are and how they process the things that have happened to them, are going to have post-traumatic stresses that are going to be now you have to take that and introduce that into the equation with a mom, with a son, with a daughter, with a family that's happening that has been operating without him for the last 6 months.
Jeez. Yeah.
All of a sudden dad shows back up and he shows up with a couple friends. And by friends, I mean things running around inside of his head that they may not be able to deal with effectively. So then how does that happen? And I've had, this year I'm on 4 of my buddies, 4 teammates that have taken their own life. And some of these guys well adjusted, they seem to have it all together. You didn't see it coming at all. And it's those. That's what I mean by they show it back up at home, and they got a couple friends with them. They have some stragglers that are coming into the house that now not only dad and mom have to deal with each other, but now you have this other dynamic that's there based on what has happened to him over the 6 months, and he may not feel the invitation to be able to speak about that stuff to his wife. Yeah. So I have it. It happens It happened to me 2 weeks ago. One of the guys came off deployment and said, "Hey, Bram, we need to talk." Yeah. I was like, "How soon?" "I'll drop everything I got right now to get home." And this guy doesn't have a wife, doesn't have kids, but he understands. He brought some friends home, and he's just like, I don't want that to affect things. And it's not like it was a few years ago where the getting was really heavy. But he's young. He came home and he still just wanted to talk about it. And I love that because that's a dude, that's a man who's willing to
be vulnerable.
And when these guys come home and the stuff that they say to me, Man, I didn't have that. When I was in the teams. Now, granted, it wasn't like it is now or was during the global war on terror, GWAT.
Yeah.
Those guys. My time was in the early 2000s and in the 90s, especially late 90s. And it wasn't like it is now, where it was 2005, 2006, 2007, 2009, where guys were coming home and they had some things that they had to sort out. And a lot of the guys that I know that were real high end operationally, they did really good stuff overseas. They came home and they right away began to talk about it. And they began to talk about it with the right people,
right?
And they like I still have some things I think about. Some things still run through my head.
Yeah.
I know I don't process things like the way normal people would, or the way I did in high school, or maybe after. But I'm in such a better place than had I not done that. And so there's a lot to that. Mitchie Brusco, who was here last Monday. He and I sat around. We talked a lot about the mental health issue, what happens, and the way that you deal with things after doing things like some of the stuff that he's done in the X Games and with his skateboarding. And man, as such a young kid, so well adjusted, I wish that I was that well adjusted, after some of the military stuff, because I think that I made a lot of bad calls early on in my life that could have been different if I had just had someone to talk to, someone to sit down with, and someone to say, "Hey, look, things aren't going the way that I had envisioned them to go as a man."
Right. There are absolute similarities between sports and teams just takes it to a whole nother level. I mean, for sports, the big issue is identity coming out. You've done this thing for 30 years, and now it's over. And you're like, this is who I am. This is what I do. I remember distinctly with Chris when we first got married and I was finishing up my career, and I'd come home and she's like, this isn't a locker room. This is home. I'm not one of the boys.
Yep. My wife says that too. She's like, wife, not buddy.
Not buddy.
Wife.
Exactly. It's hard. You're just shifting in. So,
did you ever call her dude?
Yeah, absolutely. Among other things, yes. So the transition, again, no comparison between military and teams and what you guys have done in sports, but on some level you can experience that because your whole identity. I'm sure you go out on a six months with your teams. Your whole identity of those guys, your mission, what you're doing. I mean, you're singularly focused on it. It's intense. Sports on some level, it's not life or death, but there's a singular, mission and intensity. So, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's like, I've done this my whole life. Who am I? What am I doing? And that adjustment, again, I do not want to compare and say it's on the same level, but there are some similarities in what athletes have to do.
It's going to be so great because I know you have a son.
Yeah.
Now that's starting to venture into that world in the military and doing high end military stuff. It's going to be so great for him to have you to be able to come back and say, this happened. How do I deal with that relative to my family, my kids, my wife, and it's going to be because there's not a lot of guys who are a lot of guys have great dads.
Yeah.
But many of the dads, like my dad did not understand
what you're going through.
And so I would call my dad. My dad's an amazing human. Yeah. My dad is one of the best men that, chainsaw to this day, wielding, truck fixing, on his back in the middle of a snowbank, changing out the rack and pinion steering on an old truck, on an old car. He's just very few words. When he does talk, you lean in because it's going to be solid. That's my dad, right? But even he didn't really understand all the crazy that went on in my life. Yeah. But what I did have was I had Greg, Pastor Greg Warwick.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize what an advantage it was, like how much I was blessed to have that guy because I don't know if you saw his last book that he just put out called The Warfighter's Soul.
No, I heard of it and he told me about it.
Yeah, I have a copy in my office. I'll before you go, I'll give you one.
Okay.
It's
legit.
It's legit, and it's getting a lot of attention, and it's getting a lot of attention from war fighters, because the war fighters that are reading it are saying, he just identified me in it. He just talked about me. He just that was my situation, and I did not handle it right. And he has people coming out of the woodwork. He has, I mean, not to mention Fox News and other media outlets, but he has like Border Patrol, law enforcement agencies, military units coming to him saying, can you come and talk to our guys? And do you have a workbook? Do you have something that we can do that's a process-based thing, so we can begin to walk them through this? So Greg is now, and that's what I had. Yeah. On a regular basis, and I was still a knucklehead, and he was
it's been, for T and what he's doing, we spent about 6 months. We'd meet once or every week or two and just talk about, how are you going to get through the difficult? How are you going to get through, they have a week that's fairly difficult for what he does, that I think you've been through. And I'd meet him for lunch and we'd go, what are you going to do when you want to quit? What are you going to do when the hard? What are you going to do when the hard comes? What? Because when you look at your what you do, the attrition rate is off the chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we went through 4 or 5 go-tos when you're ready to quit, when you're done. For me, it was phenomenal, because my career was about quitting. I should have quit 15 times. I should have. I was told by general manager after general manager that I was just horse shit. We want to be done with you. Why don't you just quit? And just perseverance. Just don't quit. I can't tell you, time after time, I watch great players that didn't get an opportunity because they were frustrated because they didn't get an opportunity. They just quit. They were much better than I was. So for me and my kids, and when I talk on leadership, it's like the opportunity will come. Most of you aren't willing to wait for the opportunity because you're going to quit before that happens. If you just stay the course, and for me in hockey, my motto was, they're going to throw me out. I know what I'm supposed to do. You're going to throw me out. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to continue to play. And the moment that you say no more, and there's no more teams, then I'll know it's time. But time and time again was told I couldn't do it. And I spent... I spent the first 5 years battling in the minors on probably, I counted the other day, about 16 different teams, just going from team to team, just fighting, just trying to make it, and should have quit. But here's the thing, the opportunities will always come. They're coming. Are you going to be there? Will you have quit? And if you just stick in long enough, it's going to come. Then everything that you've done to prepare for that moment is when you grab a hold of it and you run. Yeah.
Someone said to me, I forget who it was and even how long ago it was, but it's something that always, those things that somebody throws a nugget in you, at you, and it just, you grab it, you stick it in your pocket, and it's always there. Yeah. And this one is kind of along those lines, but it was like there's the difference between stopping short and falling short. Are completely different. Absolutely. Falling short doesn't have the regret that stopping short does. Yep. And so it's
so good.
I have a lot of guys that I have spent a lot of time with before they're going through the whole process to get into the military or whatever big thing in the military they're going to try to do, be it SF or maybe PJ or MARSOC in the Marine Corps, maybe even the SEAL teams. And they, and I always walk them through. I said, are you sure that this is what you want to do? Yeah. Do you know that you're not going to quit? Like, I know it. I absolutely know 100%. Yeah. I said, okay. All right. So let's take a wrap off and let's look at this from a truth perspective. The truth is, you are going to face things that your psychology is not going to know the difference between it being a safe environment or an unsafe environment. Right. You're going to look at it and be like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I think I'm going to die. Yeah. But you're not. Yeah. Yep, it's cold. You've been awake for 4 days, 5 days, however long. And you've been doing constant physical activity. You got it in you. Your body and your brain have two different criteria of what hard is. Yeah. Your brain is going to try to shut things down. Your body's going to be like, I got more.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to listen to?
So, but the critical point in there is what I found is are you willing to die?
Yeah.
Because you can say all those. If you're not really truly willing to die, when the hard comes, you go,
Yeah.
That the men who are like, I'd rather you kill me, I'd rather die right here than to quit, are the ones who go beyond.
Right.
But there's a lot of guys, I'm not, I'll die for this. It's the same principle in our marriages, for our sons, for righteousness, for truth. We go, I'll stand up until the difficult comes, until you can be canceled for what you say. And you go, I didn't really mean it that way. No, that's exactly what I meant.
Right.
What are the consequences?
Yeah. If it's worth fighting for, better be worth dying for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what you do, I'm assuming the men that make it are the ones who go, you're going to have to kill me.
Oh, 100%.
You're going to have to kill me.
100%.
I'm not.
And there are some that they come back to me and they said, man, you were right. Man, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Which is honest and okay, I'm all right. What next?
Yep, that's exactly what I said. And they were expecting me to oh man, you failed. What's wrong with you? Yeah, I'm like, cool. What is it? What's next? What is it? What is it that you're going to do next? Because God took you through that for a reason. He had me with you in there in that little mess that you just went through for a reason.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going to do next is not going to be that.
Yeah.
And you are going to be armed with what you learned there, what you learned in our interactions.
Yep.
Whatever you do next, man, you're going to do well. And to the man, every single one of them has come back after that and said, you were 100% right again. This is something that now they're doing something that they're actually passionate about.
Yeah. They're in their lane. What the purpose of adversity is a gift. Adversity is a gift. I'm telling you, after playing professionally for, I was 20 years. I was 25 when I played my first NHL game. So I started when I was 5. It was 20 years to get to this point. I'm in the Boston Garden. I mean, the old Boston Garden. 18,000 fans. It smells like brats because they're. It just rats in the building and just character. Like literally, not like in the old days in those rinks and stadiums, everything was straight up and down. So literally people are on you. Now it goes out because they want to put in more seats. So it's not as intimate. Back then it was intimate. You could see and everybody in the stands. It was crazy. So 25 years, I'm in the Boston Garden. I'm looking in the rafters, and in the rafters is Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito and Jerry Cheever. All the greats of the game are hanging from the rafters, and I'm going, holy shit, what am I doing? Okay, this is what I am created. This is the moment that I'm created for. So all this emotion, and we're playing the New Jersey Devils, and we go up 1-0, and then they score on a power play 1-1, and then they score again. It's 2-1. We go into the second period. I think it was the second period. Anyways, breakaway. Bobby Holy comes on a breakaway. I make the save. That's what I'm supposed to do. My defenseman turns away, and they score on the rebound. Defenseman's supposed to pick up the puck after that. Didn't do it for whatever reason. So it's 2-2. Like, okay, no big deal. We go into the third period. And same thing. It another breakaway. I make the save, and there's a scramble, and they score on that. Now we're down 3-2 in New Jersey, and I'm starting to hear some smatterings. I had taken the place of Reggie Lemelin, who was had been around forever, was a legend everybody loved. And it was the way they went about the transition of calling me up. They called me up to be a stopgap, not to take his place, essentially. So they called me up, and they literally packed his bag and had it outside the locker room. That's how he found out he was no longer going to be playing for it, which is just absolutely bullshit, not how you treat someone who's been around for that long. So there's all this tension, all these things. And I remember looking in the stands. I have a picture of me playing in goal, Ray Bork next to me. And there's someone in the stands holding a sign that says, "We want Reggie." So that was the guy that I had replaced. And I love that because it just so we're playing, we're down 3-2, and now I'm starting to hear smatterings of, boos. I'm in Boston playing for Boston. And I got in my freaking head, and I started to just didn't stay calm. I started sweating. I remembered as clear as could be, and started thinking, okay, what's 3-2? We're down 3. You can't let this go. Not 2 minutes later, as I'm thinking about these things, the game's going. Bruce Driver comes down the right wing, takes a slap shot right over the blue line. It goes right between my legs.
Oh,
dude. It just everything's just slow motion, and then 18,000 people erupting, booing. I'm like, oh my God, this is just. And I'm like, God, you brought me all the way here, 20 years of this for this moment. This is what I'm here for, and boos are going, and then they start chanting, "We want Reggie." And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to look at the bench because I know what's going to happen. He's going to pull me. Third period, tight game. I finally look over. Brian Sutter's the coach, great coach, loved him. But he's like, out. I'm skating, and I'm like, frick. I'm skating to the bench again in Boston. Boston fans are hardcore. If you're winning, the best place you ever want to be. If you're losing, not the best place you want to be.
Yeah.
As I'm skating, I got video. As I'm skating, throwing hot dogs, throwing plastic cups, I'm getting peppered. They had to stop the game to scoop everything off to put it in the trash. They're throwing things at me. And go to the bench. I buried my head in my hands and just got, oh God, what is this? I just wanted to go into a hole and hide and I look at that moment now, looking back 30 some years, and it was the beginning of my NHL career, not the end, although I thought it was the end. But that feeling, that fight, that FU, I'm not going to let this define me or be who I am. Mm-hmm. It allowed me to do what I'm doing today. It's gotten me through the difficulties of living through life with 5 kids and a wife and being a pastor. And every adverse moment has defined me in some way to allow me to do the next thing that I'm supposed to do. Embracing the hard and seeing it as a gift is such a gift if we can give it to our kids. If we can teach them how to do that.
Question. So going back to that event, when they were throwing stuff at you, you're coming off the
hot dog in battle. Did anybody ever throw a hot dog at you? Oh no, a hot dog.
Did you?
Foot long.
When you went back, at the next game, how was that coming back?
So we go in the locker room, and Boston sports writers are just hardcore, and writers are idiots. You're sitting there, and I'm in my locker room, and there's 15 guys around me asking questions, and why did you let that goal in? I'm like, this is stupid. What do you mean, why did I let that, is a moment, this, blah, 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 blah. So fortunately for me, someone on the team, and we don't know who to this day, someone on the team ripped the hell out of the coach, and they printed it anonymously. So we go to the rink. This was on a Saturday night. So we go to the rink Sunday. And we go in the locker room, and he shuts the doors. Brian Sutter was crazy. Played forever, tough as nails, unbelievable. He comes in, he's like, which mother effer of you said this about me in the paper? And dude, it was, everybody's just like, he pulls out a stick and starts beating the hell out of the locker room, like tearing it up. Who's going to be man enough to talk to me? He's just going off. He wants to know who said that about him in the paper. And no one would. So he's like, everybody on the ice. So we get on the ice, not a single puck to be found. For the next hour, all he did was bag skate us for an hour, which is just miserable. It's like sprints. Yep,
and just
back and forth. So we had a veteran goalie. Andrew Moog was the starter goalie, and great guy, great goaltender, and everything else. And I'm new, so I just got pulled from a game, so I am working my ass off. I'm staying with the forwards. Andy is 20 yards behind me, and I'm coming around at one point doing a skate. He's like, what are you doing? You're making me look bad. Slow down. And in my mind, I'm going, Andy, I got to make a team. I don't have any choice. So for an hour straight, I am just working my bag off and keeping up with forwards and stuff. And Sutter, he goes, you're going again tomorrow. To which all the media, oh, this is a mistake. What are you doing? And the next day in the papers, hey, they're going with blue. I can't play, blah, 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 all that stuff. We played Buffalo. We ended up, your mindset was, okay, in hockey, you have to have a short memory. Like in a lot of things we do, yesterday was yesterday. What's today look like? Let's go. So we played Buffalo. We ended up winning 5-2, and I played well. And So he's like, well, let's give him another run. We ended up playing Pittsburgh the next game. They were the defending Stanley Cup champions with Yager and Lemieux, and they were and I ended up shutting them out. So we won that game. So it just got on a little bit roll. But it back to your question, your point of mentally. Look, if we look at as difficulty as a gift, we think about things a little differently. If we look at difficulty as, oh God, I'm done, I'm no good, I'm this stuff, it just keeps spiraling. You've got to capture that moment and go, no, that moment's that moment. What can I learn from it? Now what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Yeah. That was a gift. It wasn't, it was a gift. Now learn from it and move on.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the smack talking that goes on the ice. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Oh, dude, it's good.
Is it like a kind that and also the goalie?
Yeah.
Like don't mess with the goalie.
Yeah, you're not supposed to.
You mess with the goalie, you're gonna have the rest of the team coming down on you. But you know what? I'd love to hear your answer, but we don't have any more time. So I think for everybody else that's checking this out, right, Zach? We're gonna have to wait until maybe the next episode to be able to see what John Blue has to say about smack talking, about what happens when you mess with a goalie.
It hurts me.
But most importantly, I want to know what was next after hockey and when your life made that big change. Yeah. And I want to start getting into some of that stuff. But till then,
thank you,
Bram Radio.
Love it. Thanks, Bram.